We're streaming here, them people. Nazis. I don't know if it's... Oh, it's working. Sure, hey, that's nice.
Dressing fancy. Fancy. Now, don't they? Them Nazis.
I thought I was going to have to... get a new stream key, people, if you know what I'm saying. If you mess around with the tech stuff. We're broadcasting live on Q109 through an OBS system. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never used OBS Studio... I've got your brother Seamus has version 30.0, it looks like. This is the Brother Seamus Show. We're comedy, variety, preachy, talk about politics, but try to get on the other side of politics. Maybe is one way to think of it. Try to get past politics. That's part of what the Brother Seamus Show is about. I'm your brother Seamus, and I like to make sure that my signal is being received over there on Facebook. And the irony is I'm here to denounce Facebook. I'm not here to suggest that we should ever use any sort of illegal behavior or violent behavior. Although, passive, peaceful resistance, like doing a sit-in, you're not really endangering anybody. Assuming nobody gets cheeky with the cops and the cops don't get cheeky with the people. It's a hard thing to stop. I have a lot to say about police reform, but I don't hate the cops and I don't love the cops. I just think there are things. I think the training has to be more extensive and the pay has to be much higher, and we have to have a band of officers, if you want to think of it that way, peace officers, whose primary goal is to deal with folks with mental illness. That's my idea for the police force. We pay them better and we keep the most experienced cops, and you can read into that, cops who have the best de-escalation skills, cops who really don't want to use lethal force unless they're in trouble, cops who don't overreact when somebody runs away from them or resists arrest. That has to be who's on the streets, and we have to pay them accordingly. You can't expect people to go out there and do that kind of shit. Pardon my French. I just realized I don't have my sunglasses on. Sometimes when I say a bad word, I put on my sunglasses and try to pretend it was a different person what said it. This is the Brother Seamus Show, 509-676-6032. If you are on Facebook, which I will be regularly denouncing for its horrible impact on society, but the only way I can reach the people that are addicted to Facebook is to go on to Facebook. So that's just irony at its best, I think, people. It's irony at its best. I'm going to use Facebook and I'm going to target you. You might be watching this because I might have targeted you. It doesn't cost that much. Let me pause my awesome beats here. This is a track called Oh Yeah, created by yours truly with the help of a lovely young music producer named Sam. Sam K, we'll call him, out of West Michigan. But let's pause this guy for a minute. Oh, you know what? I can just mute. I don't need to pause. I do need my blue blocker glasses, which I swear by. I'm not currently... I'm not sponsored by blue blockers, but if blue blocker people, if you're watching, if I get my audience up to over like 56 people, maybe when I get a couple hundo in there, maybe a couple 2-3K people watching, hey, maybe I'll do an ad for blue blockers, because I actually believe in them, have been wearing them since the 90s, I think. And they actually, their name is not a misnomer. It actually, the glasses do block the blue light. Like if you're looking at a blue LED, as I was just now, and then it changes colors, you'll see the other colors, but the blue color will essentially, it'll look like the light is off. And that's why I like blue blockers, because they actually block the blue, which is what they said they would do. And there's a nice rap in that somewhere. We love to do beats here on the Brother Seamus Show. The color green makes my face warbly, which is interesting. It won't look green to you because I'm using a lot of color filters here, thanks to Zud, one of my, we'll call him a co-producer of some sort. He uses OBS for his own enjoyment, which is great here in the Q109 studios in Walla Walla, Washington. But he is doing his own show and helping me with a different show. And we like the colors to be, as you can see here, as we do a slow fade of our outside cam looking down the street. The colors are not always real life colors, and that's just because why not, right? If you're going to look at some guy talking into a camera, especially about politics, the colors could at least be fun, right? But I wanted to close the loop on the point I was about to make. Sorry, I spilled some coffee on my microphone here, people. It's damp. I don't know if you've ever had to deal with coffee on your microphone, but it's probably not good. All right, I think it's as dry as it's gonna get. My point was, I think, about irony. Being live on Facebook and then targeting you, that's what it was. I'm going to target you not because I'm mean. Not because I'm mean. I'm not mean. I'm your brother Seamus, after all. I want to just show you how I'm targeting people and how anyone can do it. The danger is that they've made it so easy and so accurate. You know, back in the 80s or 90s, if you ran a marketing campaign, you kind of had to figure out in broad strokes where people live, what their income is. You could get basic info about people, and even that could be exploited to what I would think an immoral, unethical level. But you didn't know exactly what upset them, which is what Facebook knows. You didn't know they just went through a divorce, which is what Facebook knows. You didn't know how long they would hover over a picture of an AI Stormy Daniels who's sitting on a unicorn in a rainbow. Sorry, I was trying to do a dramatic switch over to my display. You didn't know that Facebook would track how long you'd hover over that image, the AI image that I made myself, thank you very much, of Stormy Daniels sitting on a unicorn with a rainbow behind her. I want to be clear, I did not ask, nor did I object to Stormy being topless. I didn't say to the AI machine, please make her topless. I just said Stormy Daniels on a unicorn, maybe flying through a rainbow or in a rainbow. I don't remember the prompts now, but they know how long you look at that picture. Facebook knows, most importantly, Facebook knows, and I say this as a psychologist, they know what triggers you. Facebook knows what triggers you. And let's say I want to sell some kind of lie. Well, what's the best kind of lie to sell? Well, it should be a big one. That's what Adolf Hitler taught us. If you're gonna brainwash people, go for a big lie. So let's say that a whole bunch of votes were stolen. Let's just say that the votes were stolen. We have no evidence for it. But if I can find people on Facebook who are vulnerable to the emotionality, for lack of a better term, if you're vulnerable to the emotionality of that, I'm going to find you on Facebook. Now, Facebook won't say, here's the emotionality factor. Facebook will say, oh, People that are interested in the NRA. Okay, they're not all emotional, but if I want to lie, here's another lie we could tell, that the other political party is trying to take your guns away. But that party is not actually trying to take your guns away. They're just trying to have gun safety. By the way, folks who are afraid their guns are going to get taken away, there's no way that would ever happen in this country ever. You'd have to repeal the Second Amendment. You know how hard it is to repeal an amendment? And there's no appetite for that on the left either. There's maybe a tiny percentage, 2% I would guess, that actually want nobody to ever have guns ever. I'm a dang old liberal and I like my guns. Nobody's going to vote to have the Second Amendment repealed. All there would be increased safety laws, like if you leave your gun out and your 3-year-old takes your gun and shoots your dang poodle. It's not funny, but I thought, the image of a poodle with a bow in its hair, and the bullet just goes right through the bow. Luckily, nobody died in that example. A 3-year-old shoots a bullet that passes within inches of your dog's head. Hey, I'm sorry, maybe you shouldn't have a gun for a minute. Maybe you got to take some training, and we'll let the judge decide. Let judges do what judges are supposed to do. It's not like you're guaranteed they're going to take your rights away forever, but the judge might say to you, ma'am or sir, as the case may be, why did you leave your gun out so your 3-year-old could shoot the dang poodle? Or almost. Even in my made-up bullshit, I don't like the idea of a dog getting shot in the head by a toddler. But if you let toddlers have guns, maybe you shouldn't get guns. Or until you can pass a class that shows either A, you have no toddlers, or B, you've learned that locking guns up is a pretty frickin' good idea. So, but back to my main point here is if I want to sell the lie that the left is trying to take your guns away, even though it's not even possible, I can find the people who are most likely to believe it simply by selecting targeted groups on Facebook. Now, Facebook's going to want to say, oh, no, we don't exploit the emotionally vulnerable, but that's exactly what they do. That's where their money gets made. Because then I can pay $150. I paid like 150, maybe $200. $200 tops, people. $200 tops. I'm not, your brother Seamus ain't rich. But we'll talk about the rich a little bit later on. So I spend $200 and I target you, right? Now, I may not get it exactly right the first time, but Facebook will learn, and it'll say, oh, these are the people that were engaged. Do you want to target more people like that? And they'll just do it for me. So now, even though I don't really have high-level marketing skills, I have minor-level marketing skills, but I have a couple $100 extra laying around, or I start the Brother Seamus Show and people donate money and we finance our own ads. We do crowdsourced ads on Facebook targeting people that are most likely to believe it or react to it. Well, how does Facebook know that? Well, lots of ways. Mainly because you tell them. Every time you react to a comment on Facebook, you're telling Facebook, hey, you want to mess with my head? You want to get inside my amygdala? I love the amygdala, people. It's kind of where it all happens. It all happens over here. Let me get a good shot of the amygdala in there. When Facebook is targeting you, what they discovered through years of research now, they know when you're upset. Partly because you click on the angry face, you tell them you're upset, or you click on the thumbs up, tell them you're happy. That's also valuable data too, but what they really figured out, according to Frances Hagen, the whistleblower who left Facebook and told us this, Frances told us they like it when you're angry, when you click the angry face. And what that means, I would argue, as a psychologist, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm a regular everyday neighborhood psychologist. I run my own practice, and I talk to people about when they get really upset, there's this part of your brain. In this picture, they're calling it the amygdaloid body, which I think is the old way of saying it, but I might be wrong about that. Maybe that's the new accepted way of saying it, but we just used to call it the amygdala. It's that little in this picture, it's kind of a bluish. It's right there where you see the line going. I'll put my mouse on it too. It's that blue. Oh, I went too high. My mouse doesn't work very well on this monitor for whatever techie reasons. So if they start telling you they're going to take your guns away and you click on the angry face because you're mad about it, even though if you stopped and took a breath, that's a big trick, by the way. That'll be on the exam. You have to slow down, take a breath, and ask yourself, wait a minute, is this really true? Could the left actually take my guns away? Of course not. It's absolutely ludicrous. There's no way in hell, but you won't see that when you're afraid and upset. You'll be afraid and upset, and you'll think, oh, this is true. This thing that I heard on social media, but I heard it in such a way, and this is critical, it hit me in such a way, it hit my eyeballs and my ear bowls in a way that frightened me, unnerved me. I think the enraged comes after scared. That's just my personal take on. But it doesn't matter, because what the amygdala is doing is helping you decide, is this a threat? So you read something very convincing on Facebook or whatever. It can be YouTube. It can be Twitter. I will not call it X because that's the dumbest fucking name I've ever heard in my life. X. Dude, you had a brand already. Why would you ditch a brand? You fucking crazy motherfucker. Anyway, my point is this. They hit you in your amygdala, and now all of a sudden you're actually scared that a thing that could never happen, not in the United States, not right now. Liberals love their guns too. And you need what, 75% to overturn or to repeal an amendment? It might even be more than that. It might have to be 3/4 of the states, or I don't even know. I need my political scientist people to call in and tell me. But you believe it, and now you're upset, and now you're telling Facebook you're upset. And then Facebook comes back to me, because let's say your brother Seamus is trying to get you upset, and that's not really what I'm doing, although for some of you I will be triggering, and I understand that. And sadly, I have to use that to come talk to you. But I won't be a dick. I mean, sometimes I'm a little bit of a dick, but I won't be a dick on purpose. I might make some jokes at your expense. I don't hate Trump voters. I don't want anything bad to happen to Trump voters. I think a full third of Trump voters aren't really aware of what he's trying to trick you into doing, which is to trick you into giving up a self-governance where we elect our people and we can fire our people. He wants to trick you into just letting him be the boss forever. Just like Vladimir Putin, his buddy, his mentor, Vladimir Putin basically said, hey, Donnie, you take over the U.S. the way I did Russia, because you can't get Putin out of Russia now. They can't vote him out. It's impossible. He'll say he wins by a landslide every time. And I'm not making this up about Mr. Trump. It's just what he said. He said that's what he wants to do many times in many different ways. Watch his rallies. Just go online. I mean, I don't want you to get addicted to him, so be careful. I think he's very toxic, which is probably a triggering idea for some of you. But hear me out. I won't be a dick on purpose. I'll also make fun of liberals, because liberals make stupid mistakes too. We all do. When we get in extreme states of mind, it just so happens right now that the most extreme state of mind is coming from the right. The danger is mostly on the right. There's not that much going on the left, quite frankly. There's a little bit, they're protesting Gaza. That's the new left. And if that's the most dangerous thing to come from the left, then we're doing great, because protesting Gaza makes sense peacefully. Yes, passive resistance. It's a little controversial. But let's not wish violence on anybody on either side, because we're frickin' family. So Trump voters, I support you. I do. I don't agree with you. I support you, don't agree with you. I want you to be safe, don't agree with you. I'm here to try to talk you out of what I think is a pretty dangerous belief, but I think a third of you are just not really thinking about it that way and get so convinced, I think mostly by use of bad actors on social media, surgically targeting certain people who happen to be in a certain state of mind, because we can all be vulnerable depending on what's going on in our lives. Some of us are genetically predisposed to be more vulnerable than others. It's not as simple as saying, oh, if you were smarter, you wouldn't get tricked. It doesn't work through smarts, or what we traditionally think of as smarts. It works through a different pathway, right? It works through our old buddy, our good old buddy, the amygdaloid body. Allow me to introduce you to the amygdaloid body. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen. The amygdaloid body is your smoke alarm. It's your threat assessment center. Now, there's a whole lot more going on. As any neuroscientist, neuropsychologist, neurologist will tell you, there's a whole lot going on here. But in an oversimplified way, Facebook's algorithm has learned to target our old friend, the amygdaloid body. And the amygdaloid body has been there since forever, pretty much. Some form of that probably had to exist going all the way back, because that told us when to frickin' run. You'd hear a twig break in the woods at night, and you think a giant meerkat's coming to tear your head off, because he probably was. And your amygdala had the power and authority to wake you up and make you start running. Or wake you up and make you grab a club and fight back. And what I believe Facebook is doing, folks, and I say this, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying this is a fact. I've been a psychologist for, I can't believe it myself, 30 freaking years. I've been a dang old shrink for 30 years. And Facebook is screwing with us. And they're making a ton of money by screwing with us. And the goose that lays the golden egg for Facebook is the angry face. It's any reaction you give it or any time you spend with your eyes on it. So hint, hint, what's the best way to put an end to Facebook's disinformation is to stop using it. But here I am talking to you on the Facebooks, right? And that's the irony, and I get it, but it's the only way I can reach you. It's the only way I can reach you. I hope you'll see... Oh, you know what? I think I was using my mouse on the wrong screen. Let me put the amygdala back up. I hope you'll understand what Facebook does is I think it's a mainlining of frightening and upsetting content, right? Targeted because they see who reacts. So even if I can't guess who the most vulnerable people are, I'll find out because they'll start reacting. And that gives me a fresh list, because those people aren't always the same. You're not vulnerable 24/7 forever. You're mostly vulnerable when you've been kind of fed this consistent diet, and they told us they were going to do this. Steve Bannon, who's Trump's kind of minister of propaganda, because it's all Nazi stuff, people. Come on. You know that, right? MAGA is Nazi stuff. I'm not saying every MAGA member, every Trump voter is a Nazi. I'm saying that's the culture. They want one person to rule over all indefinitely. They want concentration camps, mass deportations, and targeting of minorities, and especially controlling women. They really, really like controlling women. They have a deep and profound hatred for women, especially if their skin has a little bit more melanin in it. So if you're new to voting, it's the Nazis. They're coming back. They're calling themselves MAGA. If you're in MAGA and you don't realize it's Nazis, it's time to get out, find an exit, make a hasty retreat. Everybody gets fooled sometimes. Nobody, including your brother Seamus, nobody is 100% immune. So liberals, don't get all judgy and act like, oh, they're getting tricked by disinformation. Why aren't they smart like me and read 5 different news sources? Well, not everybody's going to do that. They're not like that. It doesn't make you a better person. If you want to be helpful, liberals, what you can do is reach out to your Trump voting neighbors and just say, hey, I support your right to choose your preferred candidate. I hope you'll at least consider our point of view and think it through. And we'll certainly consider your point of view and think it through. If everybody thinks through the other person's point of view, guess what? Shit works way better. But we have to talk. We have to talk to each other, people. Better get our tunes back on here. So this is the Brother Seamus Show. I'm your Brother Seamus. I'm here to preach at you for as long as I can stand it, or as long as you'll have me, or whichever one is the shortest. Usually when my coffee runs out is about when the show is getting ready to end. And I'm about ready for the first of many breaks that I like to take on this show. But before we go to break, I want to sell you a couple things. Let me sell you something here, people. I'm trying to get my merch on. Trying to get my merch on over here. Let me make sure I got it all pulled up. If you want to support your good brother Seamus, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or not. I don't care if you're a Biden supporter. I don't care if you support Joe Jorgensen. Yeah. Do not care. What I care about is that we treat each other with the kindness and the respect that, well, let's reference a fella named Jesus. Let's reference a fella named Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ would buy one of these t-shirts, dare I say, at risk of sounding heretical, Jesus Christ would buy a t-shirt that says, "Immigrants make great Americans." I believe he would. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here. Now, the one I'm wearing today, is this turquoise? What color is this? Yep, that's turquoise. That's what I'm wearing today, people. I'm going to show you here in a second. Immigrants make great Americans. That's one of the basic pillars of this television program that you tuned in here, the Brother Seamus Show. We're live on Q109. We're also pumping out through the OBS. We got our signal running over to Facebook and YouTube at Brother Seamus Show. Oh, no, I take that back. On Facebook right now, we're being hosted by Humans for Democracy, which is kind of the parent corporation of the Brother Seamus Show. Humans for Democracy has the basic mission, the same mission as the Brother Seamus Show, but the Brother Seamus Show is designed to be a little more engaging, entertaining, and ironically, hopefully get you to stay engaged so that I can find more viewers. I'm going to use the algorithm that is destroying society in an attempt, perhaps a futile attempt, to reverse the flow like they did on Ghostbusters. Sort of. Your brother Seamus is here to use the algorithm to defeat the algorithm. Specifically, our target is section 230. I'll keep mentioning section 230 until it's done, until it's gone. Section 230 is a piece of our law. It's a piece of a law that effectively says you cannot sue Facebook, YouTube, Google, TikTok. You can't sue any of them. By the way, TikTok's no better, no worse. Don't believe the hype about TikTok. It's just the American-owned social media companies would prefer that TikTok gets broken up because TikTok's beating them at their own game, which makes them both good and bad. How is the algorithm going to be used? What Section 230 says is it doesn't matter how many people they hurt. It doesn't matter how many people they hurt. Section 230 says you effectively can't sue them for damages. Like when Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll, she had the opportunity to go before a jury of her peers and say, look, this man assaulted me. I want some compensation. I was damaged, and I want some. That's called civil liability. Section 230, and there's like 12 words in it that essentially rule out the chance that you can blame Facebook for the horrendous things that Facebook is causing all over the world. So let's use the algorithm designed by Facebook to legally repeal Section 230 so that Facebook has to be held accountable. And here's what I think. I think they know that's where it's going anyway. I think they know that's where it's going. Facebook knows that it's hurting people. They know that their algorithm is used to target people who are vulnerable. This will be on the exam. And what part of their brain is the mediator deciding what's dangerous and what's threatening and what's believable? It's your amygdala. Facebook figured out a way to very precisely figure out what triggers people. And we keep telling them it's not all on Facebook. Most of it's on Facebook. They figured out a way to get you, to trigger you, to make you upset. And what they learned, I assume they had some idea. It used to be like, what's popular? What will get people to stay on Facebook? Oh, you'd show them a funny meme. But then Facebook got so good at tracking who liked what memes. Think of it that way. Who liked, this person responds more to a music video. This person responds more to a claim that they're being cheated by the government. This person responds more to a funny meme. And then they start sorting that out, and they figure out who you are. They figure out who we are. And then they cut it loose. They cut that algorithm loose, and it just keeps devouring more and more information about you the more you're online. The more you're online, the more they can trick you into staying online. You may not agree with your brother Seamus. You may not agree that social media in general and Facebook in particular are extremely dangerous. You may not agree, like your brother Seamus is saying. You may not agree that it's destroying society. I think it is. I really do. I really do think it's destroying society. And I hope you'll join my church. If you want to call it a church, you can call it a cult. The only rule in my cult, though, the only rule in the Brother Seamus cult is you got to think for yourself. You know what I'm saying? See what I did there? You join my cult, and you are bound. You have to take a solemn oath and think for yourself. You'll never figure out how you're being manipulated if you're in a state of constant distress, people. Facebook wants you to stay in a constant state of distress. Ideally. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, let me be clear about this. Mark Zuckerberg is going to say I'm full of shit, as is his right. I say he's full of shit. That's my right. Now, if I defame him, if I say horrible things about him, or I in any way suggest that any harm should come to him, that's against the law. That's not free speech. Mr. Trump routinely calls for harm against others. Love him or hate him, hashtag Sleepy Joe, never calls for harm against others. In fact, he says the opposite. And I hope he keeps saying that and keeps reminding people he's the president who wants to work with both sides. I know you think the Justice Department has been weaponized, but you know what? Trump's got nobody to blame but Trump. He decided to do these payoffs and then make fake documents, and that's what he got caught for in his business too. Just lying about shit, trying to make it look legit so he can either make more money or, in the case of Stormy Daniels, he wanted to vote. He wanted to affect the vote. He didn't want voters to know he'd paid off a porn star to keep her quiet. It's not that complicated to realize that, and all the witnesses against him were his own people, friends, former employees, and colleagues. There was not anyone up there except Stormy, maybe, and her testimony wasn't even that critical. She didn't know about whether he forged documents or not. We still love her for her effort at, I believe her. You don't have to agree with me. But I don't want any harm to come to anyone working at Facebook, or even though I think Mark Zuckerberg knew that this harm was happening, just like Big Tobacco knew they were harming us, just like Big Oil knows they're harming us. But we can settle this through the courts. We can repeal, we can delete the 12 words that make up Section 230 that gives all of the social media companies a free pass. Can you imagine if you started a rumor in a high school, but you couldn't get the rumor to spread, so you paid a guy who was a genius at figuring out who would believe the rumor, and he went to each person individually and gave them the rumor, and then it took over the school, and then some kid commits suicide? That's Facebook. They're not the kid starting the rumor or the hate speech or the bullying or the veiled threats. If you watched last 2 episodes ago, we talked about stochastic terrorism. That's where like a famous person says you should hate so-and-so, and so-and-so is a terrible person and they're a menace to society. And then violence happens to those people. Surprise, surprise. Well, some person that you love and respect and hold in high esteem told you to hurt these, suggested that these other people should be hurt, right? That's stochastic terrorism. Mr. Trump loves him some stochastic terrorism. You don't have to take it from me. Listen to what he says. He kind of wants you to be violent against other Americans. And then he's got people like Senator Tom Cotton out of Arkansas echoing that and encouraging people to get physical with peaceful protesters. That's a call for violence, Tom. You called for violence, American against American violence. You fucktwat. You're calling for violence. We'll never call for violence. Your brother Seamus knows that the only way that we're going to get through this shit is by cooperating with each other and asking yourself honestly, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Would Jesus call? Would Jesus whip up stochastic, terroristic ideas? I don't think so. In fact, I know so, because that isn't how Jesus did things. Would Jesus buy an Immigrants Make Great Americans t-shirt from Bonfire? I believe he might. I believe he just might. Of course, Jesus might just say, hey, I don't believe in any of this online commerce. Seems to be making rich people richer and poor people poorer. So he might opt out altogether. He'd probably be an anti-capitalist. I know a lot of you guys don't like to think that, but Jesus didn't like unfairness. And capitalism has created a system that's really pretty profoundly unfair. It's better than giving up self-governance, though. Don't let your disenchantment and betrayal, the betrayal you feel, that betrayal you feel is real. You were betrayed by the system. But it was a system we created and imposed upon ourselves, we call capitalism. And I'm not saying we bag the whole thing. You need pieces of capitalism and you need pieces of socialism, because that's how you build a better system. And we don't even have to call it an ism. We don't have to call it an ism. Forget the isms. It's a trick, mostly. The isms. Even communism as practiced, in Russia and China, it never really followed the dictates of communism, which was it should be fair for everybody. Capitalism's a little more out in the open about its unfairness. That doesn't make it any better. For example, our healthcare system, when decisions are being made in the emergency room, where a hospital corporation is putting pressure on nurse managers to keep the staffing low, or they incentivize it and they reward managers who constantly understaff, guess what that does? That makes your healthcare suck. It does. You thought I was going to say something more profound than suck? Can I get an amen for suck? It's kind of quiet here in the house today. Give us a call here in Walla Walla, Washington, 509-676-6032. We're blasting out over the airways. We're selling merch. That looks like this. It's on bonfire.com /store/Immigrants Make Great Americans. We do have some other shirts down. Now, they're all different sizes and shapes and cuts. I don't even know about T-shirts anymore. I didn't know there were that many. I didn't know there were that many styles, people. We've got a nice be an anti-racist T-shirt. It's a little harder to read. I designed these with my own bare hands. Any and all money made on these T-shirts goes directly to running Facebook ads targeting people who I've decided on my own, although you can help me decide, people that I've decided maybe have been tricked. Maybe they've been tricked into a cult. That's kind of what I'm here to say, people. And I'm not judging, and I'm not criticizing, but the way they get you is through social media. I think it's a true epidemic, but it's somewhat invisible. It's largely invisible. But I think it's getting people every day, constantly, day in and day out. And I hope you'll at least think about that, and I hope what you'll do is you'll step away from the Facebook machine. Step away from the lie machine, people. Step away from the lie machine. Step into a personal conversation with another human. How about that? Wouldn't that be something? Step into an actual conversation with another human being. I can't force you. Your brother Seamus isn't here to tell you what to do. I'm here to make suggestions that I think will lead to better health for you, better mental health, and better for society. If I'm right, it's a little scary thinking about how many people are vulnerable to the threat of the Facebook algorithm. How many of you are actually vulnerable? It's kind of a scary thought. It really is. I think of it in terms of a mass delusional syndrome. Okay? That's kind of not really a thing, but it's a descriptive. I'm using it as a descriptive term. A mass delusional syndrome is when a whole huge chunk of people are convinced of something that's provably not true. If you claim voter fraud but you have no proof, then believing there was voter fraud is a form of a delusion. Once you also accept the fact that, here's the thing I want you to really think about, because the voter fraud one is a big one for people, what they're really caught up in. A lot of Trump supporters believe the election was stolen. There's no evidence of that. Trump's own people said it was not stolen, and so then he fired them because they didn't say it was stolen. And you don't have to believe me. You can look all this stuff up yourself. They went to dozens and dozens of hearings to try to get any judge, to take the case, and the judge said, "Where's your evidence?" And they didn't have any. So it's a provably false statement. Not a single case went forward. I think one case started to go forward, but then, I don't know. It was a technicality. I'm not going to get into it. It didn't work. There's no proof. And yet a huge number of people believe that. And the reason I believe they believe it, and for those of you in policy making, they're not going to stop believing it. Even when they hear the truth, they're not going to stop believing it. It's been cemented via their amygdala, targeted by Facebook. The lie has cemented itself into their identity structure, if you want to think of it that way. They're not going to let it go. Some of them are lost forever. Some of them will believe for the rest of their lives that the election was stolen. But when you say to them, Donald Trump has so much money, why didn't he go to court and make his case? Because he had sympathetic judges all over the place. But even they couldn't fabricate evidence. And they never decided on, they kept switching stories. Like, how were the votes stolen? Did they print fake ballots? Did they change the numbers on machines? They just kept saying every possible way a vote could have been stolen. And there were a few fraudsters caught voting illegally. It's not as easy as you think. I'm not saying go out and try it, but it's not as easy as you think. You'd have to make an entire fake ballot with a barcode that matched a registered voter. And then if that registered voter voted on their actual ballot, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? You can't. Most of us don't have the resources to do massive voter fraud. Jewish space lasers, that was a serious explanation that was offered. But the fact is they couldn't prove it in any court, including with judges appointed by Trump. So there's no evidence. But Facebook got the message to you in such a way, and you had a leader. This is what made it extra toxic. You had a leader who many of you believe is infallible. Many of you look at him like he's the Pope or the second coming. That's very dangerous to give anybody. I love me some Sleepy Joe Biden, but I don't look at him like he's the dang Pope or the second coming. I know some of you don't like Joe Biden and you don't want to vote for him, but guess what? He's a regular president. He's not trying to end our form of government. And I know some of you will think I'm being hyperbolic, but these are Trump's own words. I'm going to take him at his word that he wants to end self-governance and stay in forever. And if you disagree with him, just like if you think Vladimir Putin's so cool, if you're one of those Putin lovers, go to Russia. I dare you. Go to Russia. Ask for residency or whatever. Like, go to Russia. Become a Russian citizen. They won't let you, but you can become a whatever. And then criticize Putin. Openly criticize Putin. Go to the news media and say, I don't like this policy that Putin came up with. Guess what? You'll be gone. If you're lucky, he'll just extradite you or send you home. Not extradite. He'll banish you. But he might just kill you. He might just make your helicopter crash or your plane crash or your bus burst into flames. He might kill 30 people just to kill you. He doesn't care about that. So if you want a government where any president can assassinate you whenever they feel like it, then vote for Trump. That's what you're voting for. And that's what I'm afraid many of you don't realize what he's so hot and heavy, promising he's going to fix all the problems, that I think the trick is you got to sit back, you got to calm down for a minute. You got to listen to your brother Seamus and ask yourself, what's this guy really doing? Why did he just keep lying about election fraud when he couldn't prove it? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, people. Now let me say a little bit more about my friend, #Sleepy Joe. We're not actually friends, me and Sleepy Joe. We're not actually friends. I agree with most of his policies. I'm a little more lefty. I'm a lefty redneck. Hashtag Sleepy Joe. But he cares about the right stuff, and I don't care how old he is. Honestly, I care. Are his ideas, are the things that he wants to implement, and I think you should forget about the age thing for either one of them. Do you agree with their ideas? Hashtag Sleepy Joe, Joe Biden, Dark Brandon, whatever you want to call him. He's just a good person, I think. I think he understands loss. I think he grew up middle class. I think he understands what it means to be a normal person. Remember, Donald Trump was a millionaire from birth. He's never had a real job in his life. I mean, he ran Trump Corporation, which, I mean, I guess if you consider 6 bankruptcies and selling Bibles to make money for your political campaign, if you think that's okay, if you think Jesus would think that's okay, then, you know, then Trump might be your guy. Joe Biden, basic Democratic moderate. He's not perfect, but you know what he supports? Healthcare. He supports making healthcare even more accessible, building on Obamacare. Nobody claimed Obamacare was perfect. Trump just wants to take it away from you. So healthcare, boom. Do you want affordable healthcare for you and your kids? And what if you get a terrible illness that requires millions of dollars worth of treatment? Do you want to lose your house? Trump wants you to lose your house. He does. I'm not saying that to be mean. He wants to get rid of Obamacare. That's 40 million people without health insurance. That's what Donald Trump brings to the table. Sleepy Joe, love him or hate him, he wants to build on Obamacare, make it more accessible. If we play our cards right, and if enough millennials vote, and if enough Gen Zers vote, we could run the table. We could have a Bernie Sanders style healthcare. We could go that way. Personally, I think it's a good idea. I think it'd be tricky to manage in a country this size, but we'll figure it out. There are ways. Maybe it's a private-public partnership. That's kind of what Obamacare is. For those of you who don't know, Obamacare is also the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, and Obamacare, same thing. Trump wanted you to hate it. The Republicans wanted you to hate Obamacare because that takes money away from their rich donors who run insurance companies. That's the whole thing, right? So Sleepy Joe, he likes him some health care. I love how the idea that he's Sleepy Joe is somehow a negative, and I think, I don't know, that's pretty good, man. Most people his age need some naps. That's fine. Are his policies good? You don't like the way he talks. Okay, are his policies good? Does he want to deport tens of millions of people who live and work in the United States and who are helping our economy? No, Joe Biden doesn't want to do that. Does he want to get the immigration system sorted out? Of course he does. They've been trying to sort it out since Reagan. Nobody's gotten it right. So don't act like Joe Biden's some big failure. He's in pretty much the same place as all previous presidents, Democrats and Republicans alike. It's not an invasion. It's people coming to work. And we need them. Joe Biden understands that. Joe Biden understands if you round up immigrants without papers, it's going to decimate the American economy. Just ask the people in Garden City, Kansas, who's going to work on the farms for $10 an hour? Who's going to work in the, I want to call it the butcher shop, the meat processing plant for $10, $12, $14 an hour? Back-breaking labor. Are you going to do it? Are you going to move to Garden City and do it? No, but you know who will? Immigrants. Immigrants will go there and work, and they'll work their asses off because it's the best option they have. Mr. Trump wants to round them up, throw them out. You tell me what that's going to do to the economy. Joe Biden wants to figure out a system, probably some kind of guest worker system, so that if people come here to work, but they don't want to live here forever necessarily, that could be manageable. Ronald Reagan tried to do that. I think it kind of worked. It worked a little bit, maybe. Let's build on that. Let's build on it. You people that talk about tearing everything down, you want to burn the whole place down, guess what you get? You get to live in the ashes. I don't want to tear the whole thing down. Yes, improvements need to be made. Things need to change, people. I agree with that. But you don't get it all at once. Everybody was mad at Obama because he didn't change everything all at once. Name a president, other than maybe Lyndon Johnson, name a president who changed everything all at once. They don't exist because human nature doesn't work that way. Let me see if I can make my beats loop. My beats keep cutting off on me. I'm trying to be inspirational, you see. So healthcare, women's reproductive rights. Donald Trump is proud. He's proud of ending Roe versus Wade. Now, you may not think that's important. You may think, well, I don't agree with abortion anyway. Well, guess what? Guess what, people? You don't need to agree with abortion. Sometimes abortion makes itself required. Every day, every single day, there are women who get pregnant who want the child at the end of the process. Fertilized egg is not a child. A seed is not an apple. A chicken is not an egg. Or I should have said it the other way around. You know what I'm getting at. By the way, there's my Immigrants Make Great Americans t-shirt. Bonfire.com /store/Humans for Democracy. Or is it Immigrants Make Great Americans? I can't remember. There's a link in the YouTube. I'll put it on the Facebook too. There's a link in there. You buy these shirts, we run ads that target folks who maybe, I don't want to sound like I got all the answers, but maybe this message, and it's not stuff I made up, it's just stuff I agree with. Maybe my message will spread further. You can also donate money directly. That's awesome. I will use it and I will report to you on the screen how much we spend on what ad and who we targeted. And you can start to see how powerful this algorithm situation really is. Joe Biden is all for holding social media accountable. I'm pretty sure he's been thinking about it since he started. He just hasn't quite figured out how to do it yet. And I'm not sure either, except we got to repeal Section 230, people. It's got to go. It's crap. It's crap. It's a billionaire. It's protection for billionaires written by billionaires. Why do billionaires get to write the law so that they can't be sued for a product that harms people every single day? Facebook harms people every single day. I think that's a provable statement. And I think they know it already, and they know if it ends up in court ever, it's going to be just like big tobacco. They're going to be caught. The evidence will show they knew it all along. Or maybe not all along. Once that algorithm got fired up, baby. Once that algorithm was really cooking. Once that algorithm was cooking. Just realizing my audio is too loud. Once that algorithm was cooking, people, they realized the best way to make money is to keep you upset. Joe Biden would be happy to put a stick in their spokes and to slow down the tech companies who seem to be, and we're not even talking about the damage to self-esteem of teenagers, especially girls. We're not talking about how much it damages our children. We're just talking about how it gets you to believe stuff that ain't true. And that's what your brother Seamus is here to do. Except his inspirational tunes keep on popping off. We're going to figure this out here, people, one way or another. We're going to figure this out. See if it loops. I'm going to take it to the end here. So a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for what I would consider to be reasonable policies that have a humanitarian edge to them. Yes, inflation's bad. Guess what? Inflation's all over the world. COVID caused worldwide inflation. The U.S. actually recovered better than almost all modern countries, probably a few exceptions. Gas is too high. Guess what? Guess Guess who Donnie Trump's cozying up to? Billionaire oil people. You don't have to believe me. Go online. Google it. You can hear him saying to the oil executives, give me some money and I'll reduce regulations. You really want to stick it to the oil companies? I do. I know I do. Peacefully. Non-violently. What's the best way to bring the price of gas down? Reduce demand. Use as little gas as you can. I know some of you have to drive for work. Most people I know have to drive. A little, at least a little bit. Drive as little as you can. You know, like even one day a week, if you can skip driving and ride with your buddy, hey man, you go out after work for a macchiato or whatever. Take your girlfriend out. Y'all get on over to Aldi. Get some sale priced items. I don't get supported by Aldi, but hey, maybe someday. Yeah. Your brother Seamus, he's here to help. Some of you gonna think I'm crazy. Some of you gonna hate my guts. You're gonna knock my teeth in. By the way, if you call my show and you get all threatening, I'm gonna report you to the FBI, just so you know. But please call if you have something to say. You might disagree with me. I don't care if you're a Biden supporter or Trump supporter. I really don't. I care whether you're a decent human being. A decent human being who maybe, if you claim to be a Christian, if you claimed Christianity and you follow the teachings of Jesus, okay, your brother Seamus is a redneck atheist preacher, so don't get your hopes up about me, but I think Jesus was right. I'm not a Christian, but I think Jesus was cool. I think he was telling the truth. And he would say, help the immigrants. He wouldn't say round them up, put them in a concentration camp. You know we've done this before. Humans have, since we figured out concentration camps, have made up excuses to incarcerate people. Do you really want to do that again? Are you young voters really down with repeating history in that way? Concentration camps? These are not my words. This is what Mr. Trump is promising right now. You don't have to love Joe Biden. You just have to hate concentration camps, mass deportations, attacks on certain religions. You don't believe me? You don't think the Trump administration would be that hostile? Look up Project 2025. They're sharing their plans out in the open. It's Nazis, people. MAGA is Nazis. They just dressed it up. Speaking of Nazis, before I was going to take a break a long time ago, but I distracted myself. So I wanted to switch gears here a little bit. This is a portion of our program where I play the Ditto Looper. And I've been working on this one loop for a while, and I've added a couple tracks. Eventually, this loop will be sent off to my sound engineer, Sam Kenny, over there in West Michigan. He's going to take this loop, and we're going to drop some beats into it. You know, your brother Seamus loves his beats, and I might give him some beats, and he'll come up with some beats. But the beats are coming. Let's see how it sounds right now. Before I play this loop, I should share with you. What I should share with you is that I like the idea. I think it's telling and funny that Nazis and a lot of regimes like that, Stalin did it too, they all get very caught up in having fancy uniforms, you know? And the higher the rank, the fancier it gets. And we do this in the U.S. too. But Nazis were especially good at it. They were especially good at the symbols and the clothing and, you know, the boots and the helmets and everything's polished. I think, well, I won't get into what I think, but I think they're drawn that way because they've stifled a part of themselves, and it comes out through their fantastic costuming. I'm not saying that Nazis are closeted drag queens. I'm not saying, hey, Hey, where are you? I'm not saying they're closeted drag queens. But I ain't saying they ain't. You know what I'm talking about? I think any legit drag queens probably look at some of the... If you look at the styles brought forth by... and, you know, Hitler was just one of many. One of many. But they get very caught up in their clothing. And last week or week before last, a bunch of... There were like 6 of them... went down to Trump's trial to show their support, and then they all seem to dress the same. They like the red tie, you know, because that's what Trump does. So they're all going to be like Trump and dress like Trump. It just made me think of the Nazis and how much they sure do love dressing fancy. Dressing fancy.
Now, don't they? Them Nazis.
All right, so I've got several layers on this loop already. It's about 30 seconds, and I'm going to maybe add a layer or two. But I want you to hear it first, and it might be too saturated already. Sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now, don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. Snappy. They sure enough do. Snippy snappy.
Okay, I think I'm going to add the snippy
Nazis
snappy.
Sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now, don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Snippy snappy. Them Nazis.
Okay, let's hear how that
sure
sounds.
do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Snippy snappy. Them Nazis.
Okay.
Sure
The snippy
do
snappy
love
was a
dressing
little
fancy.
loud. So with this ditto, this is an older ditto pedal, and you can delete your most recent track. So it's playing.
They sure enough do.
And all you do is you hold down the loop button until it blinks. So I think I was just too loud on that one. I'm gonna try it again.
Sure do love dressing fancy.
If you enjoy looping,
fancy.
the ditto allows you to output
sure
to your
do
computer.
Like dressing snappy.
I usually just record it live while I'm doing my show.
They sure enough do. Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy.
Maybe a big yee-hoo
Fancy.
in the background.
Them Nazis.
I think the trick is to layer it
Dressing
here, so I'm going to
snappy.
try that right now.
They sure enough do.
Oh, I went right on
Them
top of my other
Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
rebel yell.
Them
We'll call it the
Nazis
redneck rebel yell.
sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do.
That wasn't too bad.
Them Nazis
That wasn't too bad.
sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy.
They sure
Fancy.
do.
Them Nazis
Them Nazis.
sure do like dressing snappy. Snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis
I think I'll keep it. I think I'll
sure
keep
do
the
love
double
dressing
yeehaw.
fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do.
Dare I add a third
Them
layer to the
Nazis
layered
Sure
yahoos?
do love dressing fancy.
Oh, I might as well.
Fancy.
Let's
Now,
try
don't
it.
they? Them Nazis
Let's try it.
sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis.
I think I came in too late on
sure
that. So
do love dressing fancy.
I panicked,
Fancy,
people.
now don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
There's a sound in there
They sure enough do.
that I'm not sure where it came from. Oh, that wasn't too bad. I thought I messed it up.
Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
Sure do like dressing snappy.
They sure enough do.
There's a nice pause after that one. I think I'm going to insert something there. Maybe something that'll change up the pace a
do
little.
love
Or
dressing
not the
fancy.
pace, the flavor.
Fancy.
I think every loop has a certain flavor.
Sure do like
This one's
dressing
kind of goofy.
snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do. Them Nazis
Okay, I
sure
think I got
do
one. I
love
got an
dressing
idea.
fancy.
Okay, I'm going to put it in one of the
Fancy.
gaps there.
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do.
Okay. It's going to go in after the word snappy. We'll go
Them
around. Let's go around
Nazis
one more time.
Sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now don't they? Them
Now don't they?
Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
I think my timing was off on the 1, 2, buckle my
Them
shoe, but let's see.
Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
It wasn't bad. It was a little rushed. A little bit rushed.
Them Nazis
Not terrible,
sure
though.
do love dressing fancy. Fancy. Now don't they? Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
They sure do like dressing
1, 2, buckle
snappy.
my shoe. They sure enough do.
All right, now I'm going to get rid of that 1, 2, buckle my shoe because it was a little bit off. And while it's playing, you just hold down the loop button, and when it blinks, so it just erases the most recent thing you recorded. If you're using the Ditto looper, you can probably find them used for pretty cheap. The newer ones, I think, have auto quantize, which locks your beats together, if that makes sense. It's a nice little function. I recommend the auto quantize. So maybe get the newest Ditto looper. But this old one is fun. I really like it. I like to make loops about Nazis. I like to make fun of Nazis, although I am deadly serious. I do think that's what, the MAGA movement came out of a pro-Nazi movement from the 30s, I believe, pre-World War II. So it's not even really a unique idea. The hope is what all Nazis hope for, what all extremists hope for, whether they come from the right or the left, is that you will have forgotten about what they did in the past. That's what Mr. Trump is hoping, is that you'll forget what this system has done, whether it's 1930s and 40s Germany or Stalin's era or any of the many dictators. And that does not absolve the United States of having done things wrong. We've certainly done things wrong, and we probably will again. But at least we're attempting to hold ourselves accountable. In the United States, you can sue the government. If the government wrongs you in certain situations, you can sue them and get paid. That's not perfect, but guess what? You're not suing Vladimir Putin. If you get abused by the government in Russia or China, you think you're going to walk in and bring a lawsuit? Doo-doo-doo. Hey, I'm here to sue Xi Jinping. He wronged me. Guess what? You'll just disappear. So if you want that system, vote for Mr. Trump. If you want a nation of laws like we're supposed to be, even if you don't like the laws, it's a step in the right direction because you think Trump's on your side, and maybe he is. But if he ever decides he doesn't like you anymore and he wants to take your stuff, he'll just do it. If that's what you want, and I really have a hard time believing that Gen Z voters and millennial voters want to go back to a system that's nothing, that ultimately leads to human rights abuses. It's not at all something where people are treated fairly and where perhaps healthcare is affordable. Perhaps preschool is available to everyone. High quality, free preschool. Imagine what that would do for the citizens of our country. Early supportive education and nutritional opportunities. Guess what that leads to? Better functioning adults. Guess what that leads to? Less crime. Guess what that leads to? Less mental health problems. Guess what that leads to? Just a better frickin' situation. It's not going to be perfect. But don't give it to a tyrant. You can use any word you want. Tyrant, dictator, autocrat, president for life. With no accountability, he can kill his own enemies. That's what these are his words. Mr. Trump wants to be able to do anything to anyone and be immune. That's what he's asking for. If you're just joining us, this is the Brother Seamus Show. We're working on a loop right here, and we're about to finish it up. I think I got I got one more good one to add, and then I think we're going to start to wrap it up.
Sure do like dressing snappy.
Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
They sure enough do.
They sure enough do. All right, that's a triple yeehaw. That's pretty good.
Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do.
Okay, we're going to go right after snappy happens.
Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they? Ready.
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy. They sure enough do.
I missed it. We'll go again.
Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them
1, 2,
Nazis
buckle my shoe.
sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
I think that might have worked. I'm trying to learn to not be quite so loud.
Sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
That one might have been a little early. Let's go one more try. One more try.
Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
All right, I think we got it. I think we got it that time.
Them Nazis sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.
All right, that's about as good as it's going to get. That's today's loop. Sometimes
Them
it's
Nazis
related to
sure do
politics.
love
Sometimes it's
dressing
not.
fancy.
Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned loops,
Them
people.
Nazis sure do like dressing
Oh, there, my
snappy.
camera's all in my
1, 2,
lap.
buckle
That's
my
not
shoe.
where I need it.
They sure enough do.
All right, people, this is the
Them
Brother Seamus
Nazis
Show,
sure do love dressing fancy.
and we've got a couple more things to do today, and then I got to get out of here. I got work to do, people. I got to fix. I got a short. I got an old RV from way back in the day, and it's got a short, and every time I turn on my headlights, my right turn signal goes full on and stays on. So which means there's a short in the ground, most likely. So I got work to do. Let's see how we're looking out here outside today. This is a live Earth cam. I'm not sure where this is. Somewhere in Middle America. Now, I've changed the colors to protect the innocent, people. I changed the colors to protect the innocent because Brother Seamus does not want anyone to get harmed or hurt in any way. We can solve things electorally. That's the obligation and the burden of self-governance, people. That's the burden of self-governance. We have to get out and vote. We've got a couple more things to hit. I've got some loose ends I want to tie up from the previous episode where we're talking about voter turnout in the United States. Listen, people, voter turnout in the United States sucks. It's the only way I can put it. Part of being a psychologist is trying to be genuine, trying to be authentic. We suck at voting. We're in 31st place. Can you believe that? Now, there is a ray of sunshine. There is some good news about voter turnout in the U.S. There really is some good news. But you're going to have to stick around and find out what it is. This is your brother Seamus, 509-676-6032. Let me just double check. The phone lines should be open, folks. Sometimes people call and it goes straight to voicemail. And I don't know what the hell. Let's test it. Let's give her a good test. Here we go.
Oh, this is Cliff at the Kent County Road Commission.
Oh, hello, sir.
Thank you for the service that you do free on the internet. We've got a lot of guys out on the road and all the ice and snow so people can get home safely.
Oh, thank you.
Free entertainment and spiritual guidance that you're providing the citizens of Kent County is greatly appreciated. Thank you for drawing some recognition to all of that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Just want to let you know your YouTube signal is working correctly.
All right.
We are receiving it loud and clear. So, again, keep up the good work, and God bless you, boys.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling in. This is the Brother Seamus Show. We always appreciate kind words. You don't have to agree with us, but if you call in and you're real nasty, some of you people, you think you're on the phone, you can be real nasty and mean and make threats. We don't do that here on the Brother Seamus Show. I'll just mute you. I might record it if it's entertaining nastiness, but generally speaking, nobody really wants to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Like, get off the social media. It's Irony Alert Day here on the Brother Seamus Show. I'm here on social media, targeting you on social media, trying to drum up money to pay for ads on social media to get you to stop using social media. How's that for irony? We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your brother Seamus, dancing in a black hole, dancing in a black hole. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Watch the show. Watch the show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. What are you gonna do? Watch the show. Watch the show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. What are you gonna do? Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. The Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. The Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. The Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. The Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. Brother Seamus Show, it's the Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show, what you gonna do? Brother Seamus Show, it's the Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show, what you gonna do? Watch the show. That's not perfect yet. I need a little more. I gotta tighten up the beat. Going from Brother Seamus Show to what you gonna do. I think I'm rushing it. I'm gonna try it one more time. And then we're gonna finish up. We got 2 pieces of business we gotta take care of. And then I gotta go fix my RV. It's the Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch that show. That's a little better. Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch that show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. The Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch that show. Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch that show. Hit the softball like you never did before. Take your run around and the bases are more. Hit the softball like never before. Take your place in the books. Hit the softball like never before. Run around the bases and you got one more. Hit the softball like never before. Run around the bases and you get one more. Brother Seamus Show. Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. And what are you gonna do? Watch that show. What you gonna do? Watch the show. Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. What you gonna do? Watch that show. Hit the softball like never before. Take your run around and you get one more. Brother Seamus Show. It's the Brother Seamus Show. What are you gonna do? Watch that show. All right, let's finish it up, people. Let's finish it up. I got to reset my camera. This is my wormhole dancing camera over here. Black hole. We're all on the verge of a black hole, people. We are all on the verge of a black hole. That's just science, baby. You can't F with science. It's the best thing we got. Let me give you something more fun to look at while I'm resetting the camera. Well, you probably noticed in that homemade image I got there for you. You probably noticed hashtag boycott Facebook. Now that's a good idea. I feel like it's too big. I think it's too big. The idea of boycotting Facebook. A lot of people really need it. I think small businesses especially. I'm not saying we get rid of Facebook. See, this is what's called having a nuanced position, people. What I'm saying is Facebook is a giant lie machine, and at Facebook you're not a customer. You're the product. Now I think that's supposed to be Richard Nixon. I think, but I'm not positive. I think that's supposed to be Tricky Dick there. Now, boycott Facebook is fine, but I think I made this probably a year or two ago, and probably what I would say now about this particular image is let's repeal Section 230, and what that will do is it'll force Facebook, it'll force them to make their product more safe. And they just don't want to because it costs money and they have to hire people and it's going to lower their profits. So they took all that money and they bought themselves a sweet, sweet insurance policy. Or I should say, they bought themselves a little piece of immunity by manipulating our governmental system against us. That's the bad news. The good news is we can fix it. Right? We don't have to sit and take it. We can fix it. That's the great thing about self-governance. That's pretty much, even if you don't want to learn anything else about the coming election, do you want self-governance or not? Because even if you love Mr. Trump, he's pretty much promising you the end of self-governance. He's basically saying, hey, I got an idea. Yeah. Let's try out a dictatorship. I hear it's swell. Yeah. And then he's going to rob. You know what they do? It's just like when the mob takes over a company. For anybody that understands organized crime, the first thing they do is they just, I think there's even a name for it. Like you take over their store and you just basically liquidate everything. It's a bust out, I think they call it. They're not trying to run your store successfully. Trump's not trying to run the United States successfully. He's trying to do a bust out. He wants to shake all the money that he can shake out of the trees, him and the oil barons. I mean, do you really think at the end of the day he's going to take care of regular people? He's not. I know you don't agree with me, but I just want you to think about how rich that motherfucker has been his whole life. Sorry I called him a motherfucker, but sometimes you got to tell it like it is. He was born rich, only worked for himself his whole life. Daddy bailed him out of a lot of bad ideas. He ran a casino into the ground. You or I could run a casino. He ran a flippin' casino into the ground because he didn't know how to control his impulses. Now, he says he's got your back. But I'm here to tell you, as your brother Seamus, I think maybe he's blowing a lot of bullshit at you. You don't have to love Biden. You don't even have to vote for Biden. But how about this? If you're not going to vote for Biden, sit this one out, okay? Because there's a lot of people, a lot of young voters coming up that believe in self-governance, and they want more climate change initiatives. They want stronger peace talks with Israel and Gaza. They want people protected better. They want better schools. They want to pay teachers more money. They want mental health cops. So let them vote, because it's their world. If you can't see your way, if you're too conflicted about Trump, I get it. He did a good job of I think he's a communications genius. I really do. Liberals get mad at me for saying he's a genius. Like, I'm not saying he's a genius at everything, but he sure knows how to connect with people. He makes you feel like he understands your problems, but I think the best way to put it is you're just not very high on his list. He says he's going to pardon all these January 6th people who really did, I think, get brainwashed into attacking. They attacked cops, man. They violently assaulted police officers. Violently. You can argue about, whether Trump caused that or not, but he sure as hell abandoned those people. He didn't stand up for those people at the time. He started doing it when he started realizing he needed them for the election. That's just my take on it. How about let's elect a president that condemns violent assaults on police officers and violent assaults by police officers? Unwarranted violent assaults. Let's vote for a president who condemns the violence. And his name, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, hold for dramatic. Hold for dramatic slide presentation. Where did it go? Aw. I totally blew my dramatic slide. It says vote for Joe. Oh, there it is. Protect your body. Hey, how about we vote for a president who actually wants to help regular people and not just billionaire oil barons? Can you work with me on that, people? I'm not saying Biden is perfect. I'm saying Biden is happy to be held accountable by the laws that exist and the Constitution as it exists. Mr. Trump said in his own words, parts of the Constitution have to be stripped out. I think are the words he used. You Google it and you tell me what the right words were. He said some version of we got to strip stuff out of the Constitution. You know why? Because the Constitution is trying. It's trying. It doesn't always succeed. And we are trying as a society. We don't always succeed. We often fall short. But we're trying to have a fair society, people. I know that's crazy. We're trying to have a fair society. So vote for Joe. Protect your body, vote for Joe. That's mostly for humans with wombs. But you get the idea. All right, let's stop the music and get our homework done. By gosh, it's time to do our homework so I can get outside and start working on my motorhome. I just want to point out, these are my blue blockers. It's not one of the original frames. I think these frames came out later, but these are lovely white frames. They probably look like a different color to you. If you're a bald man like your brother Seamus, or if you're a bald human like your brother Seamus, sunglasses are fun. You know, it's kind of a way to accessorize your head. Most people accessorize their head with their hair, but I like the blue blockers. I am not sponsored by the Blue Blocker Corporation, but I would highly recommend that you get yourself a pair. They actually do block blue light, which I don't know what the hell that does, but I like it. I think it just makes the glare feel less. Someday, once I've run enough Facebook ads where I've targeted the right people who either enjoy my message or maybe can use it. Not everybody is getting brainwashed, but we've never had social media before. So if you want to help me counter-speak the disinformation that's out there and just, in a way, try to de-escalate what Facebook has escalated, which is high levels of political tension, with one side already beginning to say violence is a portion of one side, the people on the right. There's a segment of you folks who are now so agitated that you're saying violence is okay. And once we get to that point, we're in deep trouble. And your brother Seamus is here to try to mitigate that. I don't care if you vote for Trump or Biden. I don't care who you like, I should say. I hope you'll vote for Biden so we can de-escalate. We don't need to burn it all down, folks. Lots of aspiring nations have burnt it all down, and guess what happened? They lived in the ashes. That's what happened. Burning it down doesn't work. Let's fix it. We can. That's the good news. Gen Z, millennial voters, you have numbers like never before. You want a more perfect union? Get your asses to the voting booth. That's not a threat. I'm imploring. That's an imploration. I'm not even sure what the word is. I'm begging. Gen Z, if you have concerns of any kind, even if you don't know much about politics, just get registered to vote. Vote early if you can, but if you're in a state like Texas or Georgia where they're trying to stop you from voting because they know that you have the votes, that's why they wouldn't work so hard at it if your vote didn't mean anything, right? Keep that in your head. They wouldn't work so hard at it. They would not work so hard at stopping you from voting. Don't be proud of apathy. They wouldn't work so frickin' hard to stop you if it didn't have any power. They just wouldn't care. They'd let you vote. They'd be like, whatever, we're going to win the elections. It doesn't matter. So Gen Z and millennials, a big thrust of this program, the Brother Seamus mission, if you will, is to get more Gen Z people registered to vote. Looks like I was coming through one channel more than another. I'm going to straighten that out. All right. If you want to help, get your friends to vote. Get them registered. Here's the weird thing. This segues right into our lesson. Here's the weird thing about getting registered to vote. Our voter turnout in the U.S. is abysmal. We're really bad at voting. I'm not picking on any one group. The only exemption, the only people that aren't under scrutiny for not voting enough are black women. Black women is the only voting group that turns out the way we're all supposed to turn out. Their numbers are so high compared to the rest of the country. I don't want to quote the numbers because I don't remember. Your brother Seamus maybe ain't much for details, but I'll tell you, I give you the gist of it. The gist of it is black women vote the way we're all supposed to vote. Okay? Gen Z and millennials, you could run the show. You could make climate change a number one priority if you wanted. You could make health care a number one priority if you wanted. You could make health care available to everyone automatically. It doesn't have to be through Medicare or the government directly, but you can improve upon Obamacare so that nobody has to worry about going bankrupt from healthcare problems. When you're 18 and you have a part-time job at a coffee shop, your employer probably can't afford to give you health insurance for real. They shouldn't have to worry about that. They should be able to hire you and pay you a wage so you can, make enough to pay your rent, maybe. That'd be nice, right? But your health care should just be there. Gen Z and millennials, you can make that happen. It's not just a dream. It wasn't just Bernie Sanders' dream. It's a possibility. It's a possibility that we could flip into a truly post-racial society. What does that even mean? Well, it might mean that the effects of racism are starting to wash out if we keep going forward with an honest, healthy self-criticism. I think the Gen Zers and the millennials are ready for that. They're not as defensive as previous generations. And they know it's better for everybody, but except for the billion-dollar oil companies especially, us moving forward with a climate agenda really pisses them off because they want to keep selling oil. And what's the best way to hurt them? Reduce demand. What's the best way to reduce demand? Drive as little as you can. Burn the least amounts of fossil fuels. If you can get one of those push mowers, I can't do it. My yard's too big. In fact, I might get a riding mower. But try to give yourself less grass to mow. Get a push mower if you can handle it. Switch from a 8-cylinder to a 6-cylinder or a 6-cylinder to a 4-cylinder. If you're around the city and you're mostly going to and from work, you don't need 6, 8 cylinders to get to work. Take 4. Fewer cylinders means fewer explosions, means less gas, right? That's how it works. But if you want to if you want to vote for the oil barons, then by all means vote for Donald Trump. He'll tell you himself. He will stop all environmental policies. That's another reason to vote for #Sleepy Joe. I love me some Sleepy Joe. Do you believe that climate change is a thing and that air quality is something we should probably take seriously? I know your brother Seamus does. But if you believe in basic environmentalism, and we're in trouble, people. There are houses literally falling into the ocean over in Cape Hatteras. You don't believe me? I'll show you a picture of it here. There are literally houses falling into the ocean. And what Donald Trump promises you, all right, I'm not creating these promises. These are promises he makes all the time. You can go listen for yourself. Don't watch too much of his rallies because you might get sucked into the MAGA cult because it's kind of dangerous. That's a dangerous little cult over there. Let me show you a picture of a house falling. A picture. Let me show you a picture of a house. A photograph. Let's see, where do I keep that stuff? That's over here on my photos. Where did it go? Where did it go? The house fell into the water. Where did it go? There it is. I think this is just from yesterday's newspaper. I don't know if you can read that, but another North Carolina beach house just fell into the ocean. Others may follow. It was bad enough that, oops, yeah, there's another newspaper. That's true. He's guilty, people. The headline, I'm laughing at the headline, not because it's funny, but because it's like double bad news. Another house just fell in the water, into the ocean. Others may follow. Rising seas and eroding shorelines have now claimed a half dozen houses in Rodanth in the past 4 years. Another home crumbled into the sea in Rodanth, North Carolina, the scenic Outer Banks community where rising seas and relentless erosion have claimed a growing number of, and it's cut off there, but I imagine it says homes. If you're okay with that, and if you're okay with pretending that rising sea levels is not a threat, go ahead and vote for this fella who was found guilty. And I'm just going to say a couple things about it. You can say it's fake news, but that's kind of dangerous because then you're not dealing with reality. I'm not going to yell at you if you call me at 509-676-6032. I'm not going to yell at you, but I'm going to say, hey, truth is truth sometimes. And Donald Trump was found guilty unanimously by a jury of his peers. His attorneys had equal say in who was on the jury. Now, he's going to say there was no way he could have had a fair trial. He's going to claim there was no way he could have had a fair trial. And maybe in New York they're biased against him, but it's his hometown, so it's kind of weird. If people what do you think about a person that is so hated in their own hometown? If in fact he's hated. There are quite a few Trump supporters in New York. He had the best attorneys money could buy. It did not take them long to come to a decision. Some of the people on the jury were picked by Trump's team. 9 of the 18 jurors, 12 jurors with 6 alternates. 9 were, basically it comes down to each attorney. Each team gets to kind of pick their favorite jurors. And they didn't deliberate for very long, which means they weren't confused about whether or not he had committed a crime. And keep in mind, his own attorney, his personal attorney, Michael Cohen, went to jail for, I believe, 2 years or more, and Bill Barr fucked with him while he was in prison, which is illegal, and somebody should go after Bill Barr for that. That snake. He acts like he wants to be on the right side of justice. But he just goes wherever the wind blows. If he thought Donnie Trump could pull off the coup, he would have stayed on Donnie Trump's team. And Trump knows it. Barr is essentially using the same kind of ethics, essentially the same ethics, only slightly better than Trump's ethics, which are almost non-existent. Point is this. If you're a young voter and you don't care about the environment, vote for Donald Trump. He's made it clear. He's made his position clear, people. It's not a mystery. You don't have to take it from me. Oh, but what I was going to finish saying about him being guilty. Jury of his peers. And also remember, he only needed one juror. If there was one juror that didn't agree, then he would have had a hung jury. And probably it would have been dismissed. I don't know if the prosecutor could bring it back up, but I don't know that Alvin Bragg would have chosen to do so. So he had every chance. And please keep in mind, I know some of you are being triggered by me saying that he's guilty and he deserves it. You can blame it all on Biden, but every single witness was somebody that worked with Trump. They were either his colleagues or they worked for him. Many of them, most of them, except for Stormy, and she was sort of not even that critical to the evidence. But I think Trump wanted her to be a witness so that he could go after her. Turns out it kind of backfired on him because people believed her, including your brother Seamus. You go, Stormy. But keep in mind, all of the people that were testifying against Mr. Trump were people who either still support him, most of them, or they worked for him. Yes, Michael Cohen turned on him, but he worked for Trump. He admired Trump. He even said he valued his time working for Trump. He just could not take the fall for something Trump had done. And Trump fucked with him while he was in jail through Bill Barr. That's a story all by itself that I hope somebody will dig even deeper into. If you know about how Mr. Barr, I believe my accusation is, I believe he abused his power. I believe he abused his office to make Michael Cohen specifically suffer more. That's what I think. I hope Michael Cohen's suing him for that. That's what I believe happened, based on what little I can read about it. But Mr. Trump got himself into trouble here, people. If you or I did what he did, we would have already been sentenced to like 2 years in the federal pen, or in this case, it's a state one. But you can blame Biden all you want, but those witnesses were all Trump's. And why didn't his wife come? If this whole thing, like his argument was basically, I wasn't trying to affect the election outcome. I was trying to spare my wife's feelings. If that's true, why isn't she at the trial? Because I think she thinks it's BS. And, she knows it's BS, I would say. All right, let's get our lesson started. I wanted to tie up some loose ends. There was a question last time about the voter turnout rate. And basically, the rate of voter turnout is, for us here in the United States, pretty horrible. And I'm going to show you the numbers here. As soon as I get my slides together. Okay, here we go. Pause the music. These kids got to get home. I've been on the air for 2 hours and 13 minutes, folks. That's too long. So here's our voter turnout. I'll cut to the chase. I covered this in the last episode. We are in 31st place, people. Look who number 1 is. I don't know if you can read this. Uruguay is number 1. Let me put on my faraway reading glasses. All right, that's as big as I can get it. Registered voter turnout, U.S. voting age population turnout is still behind many other countries despite recent rise in registered voter turnout. Okay, now I told you before we were in 31st place, and that's bad news. I just want to find us here so everybody can see. We're down here in 31st place, 2020 election, and this was our highest turnout election, I believe, in the history or in the last 100 years. It's kind of hard to compare turnout more than 100, 150 years ago because a whole bunch of people, including women, were not allowed to vote. So it's not a true representation of the country. It's a true representation of male landowners who were also low on skin pigment, if you catch my drift. Only the honkies were allowed to vote back then. But we're not going to go down that road right now. What I want to point out is this number, 62.8% of voting age population showed up at the elections. There's another number that's 66%. I think it's a little bit more accurate. But on this particular chart, it's voting age. The 66% turnout is kind of a newer statistic called voting eligible. So there's a voting age population and a voting eligible population. The voting eligible population takes out people who are of voting age but aren't allowed to vote for one reason or another, usually because they're felons or who knows what. There are other reasons that you can't vote. So 66% turned out in 2020. That's the best ever. That's the most people that voted ever. About 81 million voted for Joe Biden and 74 million voted for Donald Trump, despite all his claims. Otherwise, if you've got the evidence, bring it forward. Otherwise, STFU, baby. I think Barack Obama and JFK are in like second and third place in terms of voter turnout, and I think they were around 64%. I could be wrong. But here's the hidden good news. We're 31st. We're getting our butts kicked. Look at Uruguay. Uruguay is kicking the crap out of voting. 90% of registered voters turn out, and 94% of the voting age population voted. Turkey, Peru, Indonesia, Argentina, Sweden, Philippines, Belgium, and New Zealand. Look at their numbers. Okay, there's a whole bunch of people in the 75 to 80% bracket. We should at least be in this bracket, people. Can we be top 20? Please, can we? Are you millennials and Gen Zers listening? Can you please, hey, can you please help your brother Seamus, you know? I do all I can to please you. I try to move my head back and forth in a cool way like this. I do these things so that you'll get registered and you'll vote, because that's the cure to this extremism. The good news, in the United States, we're doing one thing right. We're doing one thing right. And let me show you what that is. Let's zoom in on the United States right there. 62.8% of our voting age population voted in 2020. 66% of voting eligible people voted. But look at this number. It's probably hard to see. 94.1% of registered voters actually showed up. Let's go up to this will be on the exam, by the way. See the yellow? It's hard to see. I wish they'd put some outlines on these numbers for the kids who have to take the AP exam. But registered voter turnout rate, in some countries it's the reverse. Like the turnout of registered voters in Uruguay is around 90%. It's probably that their numbers are so high. So 94% of their population is voting. Almost everybody's voting and 90% of them show up. Is one way to think of that. In the United States, our turnout overall is pretty pathetic. We're not even up in the 70% range, right? Let's see who's the first one in the 70% range. Pretty much right here, Hungary. Hungary, a country that's flirting with becoming a dictatorship, just like the U.S. is, has 71% turnout. We can't even get up to where Hungary is, people. Taiwan is kicking our ass. The Netherlands are kicking. These folks routinely vote in the 70s. I thought a lot of these folks, like Iceland, were in the 80s and 90s. But it looks like Uruguay is giving everybody a run for their money. Uruguay, Turkey, Peru in the 80s and 90s. Uruguay is the only one officially in the 90s. Denmark, I thought would be in the 90s. They're a solid 76. Australia, a solid 76. And keep in mind, voting in Australia is compulsory. So about a quarter of Australia decided they're not going to vote. And I think they get a fine or something. I don't know what they do. Maybe they don't do anything. So even making it compulsory doesn't fix the problem, which is kind of, I'm realizing as I say this, an important insight. Compulsory voting isn't necessarily the answer, since I believe in Australia it's compulsory, and maybe a few other countries. In other words, you're forced to vote or you get some kind of slap on the wrist. Israel, you're doing pretty bad too. You're up in the 70s on overall, but then you don't turn out. Your registered voters are only showing up at 67%. So what the hell good does that do? The United States, though, 94.1%, people. 94.1% of registered voters show their asses up to vote. So if you're a young millennial and Gen Zer and you're like, well, how can I help? How can a regular person help? Well, for some reason in the United States, if you can get a person registered, there's a 94% chance they'll show up. That's almost a perfect score. So if you want to help, if you're not sure and you don't want to knock on doors or whatever, just go out and get people registered to vote. Join a voter registration group. There's probably one at your church if you go to church. If you don't go to church, you could volunteer for your township. You could just talk to your neighbors. You don't have to make it a full-time job. You could just say, hey, look, this election's really important. You don't have to say who you're voting for. Keep it neutral. respect everybody's opinion, but just say, hey, get registered and vote. Because for some reason, in the United States, and I don't think look at the difference there, 62.8, even if you started at 66 to 94, it's a 30% difference, people, between the people who are eligible or of the voting age, and then when they get registered, 94% turnout. So there's something here for us in the U.S. to take. Ooh, there's another big one. Who's that? Luxembourg. Boy, their turnout is worse than ours. But if you get them registered, 89.7% turnout. In the U.S., it's 94. That is fascinating, isn't it? It's kind of like in the U.S., either you're disengaged and you don't want anything to do with it, but when you get registered, you're like, oh, hey, Brother Seamus, I got registered. I'm going to go out there and vote. And I hope that's true, people. I hope you will. And if you enjoy talking to people, volunteer to help run the election. Yes, there is some danger to it. Some people get mad. Some people think you're cheating. If you're a woman of color, you're going to be a target for the Trump administration. They generally, if you pay attention, they only accuse people of cheating in black and brown precincts. So if you're a millennial and a Gen Z and you don't like that racist bullshit, then don't vote for Mr. Trump. If you're in love with Mr. Trump, keep listening to the show. I support you to believe whatever you think is the truth. I just don't agree with you. All right. I think that's the last little bit I wanted to go out on here is there's a TikTok floating around out there by a fella. You're going to see him right here. A fella named Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham. I've seen he's got a Netflix show, I believe. Anyway, he puts out his TikToks. It doesn't matter that it's owned by China or Taiwan, sorry. The American companies want to go after TikTok because TikTok's algorithm is pretty good. I think it's giving them a run for their money, and they're losing business to TikTok, so they want to hurt them. But all social media companies are dangerous, TikTok included. The fact that the owner's from Taiwan, it doesn't mean pop diddly squat in terms of you as a consumer as far as the danger goes. They're all dangerous to you because they can all be co-opted by people who want to convince you of things that aren't true, mainly by getting you really upset. But Bo Burnham had a little something to say about it. It looked like, you tell me, it looked like he just woke up. Let me pause my tunes up here for a minute. Let's hear what Bo Burnham has to say. Bo gets credit for today's show title. The title of today's show, for those of you keeping track at home, is Bug-Eyed Salamanders in Silicon Valley. So that's today's show title. Now let's hear what Bo has to say.
That, maybe allowing giant digital media corporations to exploit the neurochemical drama of our children for profit, maybe that was a bad call exactly. by us. Maybe the flattening of the entire subjective human experience into a lifeless exchange of value that benefits nobody except for, a handful of bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that as a way of life forever. Maybe that's not good.
No,
I don't know about you guys, but
let's listen one more time.
I've been thinking recently that maybe allowing giant digital media corporations to exploit the neurochemical drama of our children for profit, maybe that was a bad call.
I just want to pause that right there. Exploit the neurochemical drama. That's perfect. He's talking about the amygdala there. He's also talking about young people having really powerful feelings related to their self-worth, their self-esteem, whether they're attractive enough. And there's all these images, and we've been doing this since forever. There's all these images out there that are unrealistic, especially for girls, but expectations for boys are unrealistic too. It's damaging. And social media reinforces all of those. And it does it by giving folks, through the amygdala, a neurochemical experience that they not only get addicted to, but like most addictive things, they get harmed by it.
By us. You know, maybe that was a bad call by us.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Maybe the flattening of the entire subjective human experience into a lifeless exchange of value that benefits nobody except for, a handful of bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that as a way of life forever.
Not forever, Bo.
Maybe that's
please
not good. I don't know about you guys, but I've been thinking recently that maybe allowing giant digital media corporations to exploit the neurochemical drama of our children for profit. Maybe that was a bad call by us. Maybe the flattening of the entire subjective human experience into a lifeless exchange of value that benefits nobody except for, a handful of bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that as a way of life forever. A handful of bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that in Silicon Valley. Maybe that bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that as a way of life forever. Maybe that's not good. I don't know about you guys, but I've been thinking recently that maybe allowing giant digital media corporations to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll click on Bo's. This is his TikTok. This is Bo's TikTok right up here. And Robert Burnham 1990 is. Let's go look at his page there. This is Bo Burnham on TikTok. Give him a follow. He does some amazing shit, people. Brother Seamus is a big fan. He's not paying me to say this. I promise. He does some real creative stuff over there in his apartment with all his gizmos and his gadgets, people. That's Bo Burnham on TikTok. I believe you can find a special on Netflix. Let's see if it's referenced in here, perhaps. I think it's called Inside. Yeah, there's some outtakes from his movie. I think it's called Inside, and I believe it's on Netflix. You'll find it. Just Google Bo Burnham. You'll see all kinds of schnizzle. I love that he's still in bed when he made today's recording. Your brother Seamus tries to share. I try to share things directly with people that I think are helpful in some way, and you may or may not relate to the way that Mr. Burnham was describing things, but he's, in my opinion, as a psychologist for 30 years, he's hitting the nail right on the head. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that we're going to use Facebook. We're going to do targeted ads on Facebook to get people to watch this show so we can do more targeted ads for people that have been so upset by what they've seen on social media that they've begun believing in fixed false truths, also known as delusions. Your brother Seamus is a licensed psychologist, but this is not therapy. Okay, let me make that clear. This is not therapy. If you have real mental health issues, call your local community mental health center. Most counties have to have a hotline you can call. They'll get you started. Find yourself a good shrink, sit, pop a squat, and talk about your troubles. Take a load off. There's no shame in it. Everybody gets stressed out, and everybody is vulnerable to deception. So don't get too high and mighty. I feel like Trump voters in particular have been targeted for deception. If you listen to what Steve Bannon has been saying since the beginning, if you don't know Steve Bannon, he's Trump's Minister of Information. Steve Bannon's most famous quote, and he's proud of it, is, "Let's flood the zone with shit." If you flood the internet, if you flood social media with enough BS, especially if you kind of target it to upset people, a lot of folks aren't going to know what's real anymore. And we're going to lose some of them. Some of them are already lost. Some of them are not coming back. Some of them got killed on January 6th through no fault of their own, really. They really believed what they were standing, they really believed the election had been stolen because that idea was told to them over and over and over again. And for those people who were killed or injured, including all the police officers, over 100 police officers, I think, were pretty significantly injured. One died that day. They say of natural causes, but come on. Several more, 4 or 5 more, committed suicide. Their families cannot sue social media companies that helped organize that very dangerous, whatever you want to call it. We should call it what it is. It was a riot. It was an insurrection. It was an attempt to stop the vote from being counted. You may still love Mr. Trump, and that's your choice. But let's at least acknowledge that I want to say it's around 140 police officers were maimed that day by lies told on social media. And you can't sue them. I'm your brother Seamus. This is a call-in show, which to date we've received a few calls, but they're mostly Confederate calls. We like to say in the world of psychology research. We'll be right back on another day at another time. I can't really tell you when the next show will happen because I do it whenever I feel like it. Go to bonfire.com, buy yourself some Immigrants Make Great Americans t-shirts, or you can buy the anti-racist t-shirts. We'll use that money, like I said earlier, is going straight into targeted social media advertising so that I can get more people to watch this show. If you want more people to watch this show, go to bonfire.com/store/humans for democracy. Democracy. You can call it democracy. A lot of people get mad and they say we're not a democracy, that we're a republic, we're a constitutional republic, and that's true. We are a constitutional republic. A constitutional republic is one form of practicing democracy. But words are kind of pointless. Let's zoom in on the word, the phrase that makes the most sense. Do you want self-governance? If you're a young voter, I would really encourage you to go for self-governance because we've tried the king thing, people. We tried it. It did not work. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
That was a little slow. Let's try it again. We've tried the king thing. We've tried dictatorships. We've tried letting one man have all the power. And even if we think he's the greatest guy in the world, sometimes he turns out to be a murdering thug. Can I get an amen? Amen. 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 All right, that's a little better. You can call this number anytime, 509-676-6032. If you're watching us on the dreaded Facebook, we're also available on YouTube. Let me give you a look at what the old YouTube channel looks like. It looks just like this. It's Stormy Daniels on a unicorn flying through a rainbow on the Brother Seamus Show, at Brother Seamus Show. Facebook, we're hosted by Humans for Democracy. And if you go to the homepage, looks like that. On your page, instead of seeing a manage button, I think you'll see a call now button. You can smash that call now button. Subscribe, like, do all that. I hate when people tell me to subscribe to things. You know what to do. If you don't know how to do social media yet, shit. Your brother Seamus can't help you with that. We'll talk at you later. I gotta go do my chores. If you want to join my cult, there's only one rule. You got to think for yourself. That's right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure do love dressing fancy. Fancy.
Now, don't they?
Them Nazis sure do like dressing snappy.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
They sure enough do.